it started like a joke, and before you know it, there was a prescription, which means that I.P.O.B is an illegal organization, as described, by the federal government, a terrorist organization. And the activities in recent times has, to say the least, put them in that light.
Yeah.
When people say certain things and carry arms against the people, against the citizens of a country, they're naturally just referred to as terrorists. As a lawyer, especially one, an international, or a person who has focused on international law for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Nigerian government handled the I.P.O.B situation? How would you assess rather the handling of the I.P.O.B situation by the federal government? Let's start off from there.
Well, very quickly, the answer is no. I do not believe the government has done so much. I do not believe the strategies they've deployed has been very effective in covering this situation. But even before that, there are a few things you mentioned, which is worthy to address. You did say the I.P.O.B has been proscribed as a terrorist organization. That comes within the context of the strategy of the federal government, which again I think is comprehensively wrong. First of all, you have to give us the indications. The parameters that actually mark off a people, a society, an entity, organization as a terror organization, because there are international marks that actually pontificate on what organization would actually be qualified as a terrorist organization. And I do not think that the I.P.O.B had actually come within the context of those markers. But it is not necessarily for us to say as civilians. We're not intelligence officers. The bulk lies not just on the federal government, but those institutions of the federal government that is charged with the responsibility of making this definition in a clear way for everybody to understand. But when you don't make that definition, and when you do not publicize them, and you reach verdicts, take conclusions and take actions on it, then it becomes questionable. I believe that's the problem we have at this time, that everybody is confused as to what the I.P.O.B, the nomenclature of that I.P.O.B. Do we adopt the view of the federal government, or are we going to make self-assessments? And don't forget, there are a lot of people who also have sympathy for that organization, especially people from the southeast, and even now there are also agitations coming from different parts of the country. So it's not a very good strategy for you to prescribe them rather than initiating, which is what I believe, initiating some sort of talk and negotiation to elicit exactly what it is they're agitating for, and to see whether there are other viable means to calm the situation down. So this goes as an answer to the question of whether the government has done well so far in handling the matter of I.P.O.B.
Now, looking at what some of the recent activities or declarations of I.P.O.B, just recently the I.P.O.B banned the singing of national anthem in schools and in the southeast, and also banning the purchase of cows from the north, coming in from the north. What do you make of that?
Yeah, you see, but who's giving out all this information? And can we say that information is also authoritative? This is what I say. There are government institutions, that should be the ones saying these things to the public in a very concretized manner. The point is that if you don't do it, a lot of rumors will be flying around. For instance, even the I.P.O.B leadership, as I have heard, continues to deny some of these things you allege. So how do we know what is what? You leave the citizens confused. There are better ways to handle matters of security in a country, and we can draw or borrow leave from America. Whenever America has any security challenge, you could almost see that the head of the security institutions would always be there on television, on media, to intimate people on the happenings and give a proper definition and sense of what's going on in the country, so that you don't just rely on rumors. Because now, rumors are flying everywhere, but if I even ask you, Hadasho, you cannot refer to any government authoritative statements to the effect of these allegations. There is no white paper reports. There is nothing to back up these allegations. And the I.P.O.B is on the other side, denying most of everything we say. So, I mean, it's easy for criminals to take charge in a vacuum. What we have in Nigeria now is some kind of security vacuum. And if these vacuums are not filled up, you see all kinds of people masquerading themselves as different personalities. They may refer to themselves as I.P.O.B and get involved in all kinds of criminality. They may also be people who sympathize with that movement, but are not integrated in the movement in the real sense. But because they sympathize with that movement, they think that the way to achieve or to help the organization achieve their aims and ends is to actually bring some kind of disturbance in the system and go into all kinds of criminality.
But when these reports are attributed to the spokespersons of the organization, don't you think that actually indicts the organization?
Yeah, but you just said attribution. I'm not sure whether we've heard the man coming out to say that concretely. It is not for us to rely on what we hear from the other end. You have to rely on the government of a state, the government of a country. It is the responsibility of the country to actually secure its territories. Right, so it is them that we must rely on. I mean, so if you're telling me that it's the government saying that it's the leader of the I.P.O.B actually saying this, then that's even more tangible or concrete. But then we have to see proof. We have to see some kind of proof, which also comes in line with the strategies of combating terror, if that's what it is.
Now, speaking of vacuum and how non-state actors are taking over and claiming to secure territories, what does that make, or what does that leave the Southeast governors and the Southeast leaders in general? Because we've seen a situation where it seems like the Southeast leaders seem not to have a grip of what's going on.
Yeah, the point is that we are just in a generally confused situation in Nigeria, to be honest. Nobody knows where to start from. The citizens are mostly embarrassed, in this regime, because their lives and their property has not been guaranteed, neither is it secured. So, the state government may also want to begin to take further measures beyond the ambit or powers that they have to secure the state. And that's a good thing in the right direction. But the point is that we're mostly confused, and this is essentially because the central government is not doing enough. There's no point, undermining what the government should have done in this situation. Most of us do not support the I.P.O.B, the strategies at least, but we also recognize that there is a viable right of self-determination. Perhaps it is important in Hanasho to even appraise what it is that the I.P.O.B is actually agitating for, and put it within the context of rights, whether they should enjoy such rights, and whether a government should actually deploy such rights to a people who begin to agitate for implementation of that right, international law rights of self-determination. So the point is that we probably have to go to the root of these issues, and that's the point. That's the thing I say, that the government is not actually strategizing effectively. I think that it's to go back to history and know why these things are happening even now. When you go back to history, you find that the agitation for secession in Nigeria is age long. I mean, soon after the war, all of this started because, of course, the pointers was even before the war, but the vast disturbances that comes with occasionally hiking up the issue of seceding from the country and all of that mostly started, and effectively and more often than organized way, immediately after the war. Now, but what was the issue? The issues are very simple. If people feel unrepresented by the government, if people feel that they do not have access to the government, and the solution, I think, again, is simple. It's just to address it. If the people feel that they do not have access to government, all you have to do is to see whether there is some kind of dialogue you initiate and give them some sense of belonging in the country. Now, but when you don't do that, you don't also expect that this sort of agitation will just vanish someday. It's never going to vanish. I mean, as students of history, we can even refer to the situation in other countries. We find that whenever there is an agitation for secession in any country, it doesn't die away only because there is unwillingness on the part of the government to let that entity go. I mean, look at Catalonia at present times, what's going on there. See the massive bloodshed and chaos. And that's coming to Catalonia only because they wish to secede from Spain. Now, what is the cost? They again feel that they do not have access to the government. Now, in the case of Kosovo in history, it was the same like Nigeria. Look at South Sudan, the same thing like Nigeria. So there's no way it's going to go away. I mean, South Sudan was for a long time, longer than that of Nigeria, until they eventually achieved that secession through the help of the international community. The same with Kosovo. So we're not wishing this thing away. There's no way it's going to go away. Every government is going to come to inherit this problem unless we begin to look back into history and see how to address these problems. And for me, I think addressing the problems is not even complicated. First, if we are appraised whether there is a right to secede in international law, there is indeed a right to secede. The United Nations Charter of 1945 don't spell out that right, but rather in a vague way. And much of the confusion we have globally today is that whenever we talk about the exercise of the right of self-determination, government of states are always very quick to remind you that right does not exist, and if it does exist, that it exists in international law and not in the domestic laws of a country. For instance, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria does not stipulate the right of self-determination, but if Nigeria is part of the international community, if Nigeria is part of the United Nations, then Nigeria must understand that they become subservient to international law, and international law, through the instruments of United Nations Charter of 1945, stipulates the right of self-determination. Now, what is the right of self-determination? It's simple.
Hello, Doctor. Hello, Dr. Amuchazi. Oh, seems like we lost connection with Dr. Amuchazi. The conversation will continue in a bit. Keep up with us on your radio experience. You can count on. We'll be talking about the political and even socio-economic activities in the Southeast and how they're being disrupted by the activities of...
Point 3, Abuja.
The best things in life, they say, are free as long as we cherish them. 11 Facts presents 11 most amazing, funny, and weird facts that will make you squinch. 11 Facts at 11 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, exclusive to
Eagles 102.3
Abuja.
Has anyone told you can advertise your business on radio for just 20,000 naira? Get a chance to talk your business for 30 minutes on The Entrepreneur. Mondays to Thursdays, 3 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM, Abuja. For more inquiries, call 090-9984-4433. 090-9984-4433. The Entrepreneur. Talk your business for just 20,000 naira. Hurry now.
When the sun comes up, you know that it's time for the Sunny Side Show. With the Sunny Side Show crew, Itodo and Nene.
My name is Itodo.
And my name is Nene. Oh, wait, am I talking like this?
On the sunny side of things, weekdays 2 to 6 p.m. The Sunny Side Show. Tune in, you know you definitely want to.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with
Natural Prince.
You're still onto your radio experience. You can count on 9:23 is the time. Thank you for staying with us. We're talking this morning and asking the Southeast should sit at home. Sit at home as it returned, and just talking generally about the activities of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and its activities in the Southeast. We'll also be looking at the political space and what that holds for the Southeast. This morning, our guest is Dr. Chibike Amuchazi, who is a lecturer of international law and jurisprudence, Faculty of Law, University of Nigeria. He's joining us via phone from the Southeast. Now, thank you again, Dr. Amuchazi, for staying with us.
Yeah.
So let's get to talk about how the activities of these individuals is affecting the socio-economic activities and development in the Southeast. As a resident of the Southeast, as someone who lives in the Southeast, do you think, or what do you see happening in the next few years if these activities are left unchecked?
We hope it doesn't even get into next month, talk less of years. Well, the issue is that it's quite obvious what damage is doing to the economy. If you have to sit at home every Monday and even beyond that, because there's a sense of insecurity everywhere and people are not very comfortable going about their daily businesses. More so, this has also scared off investors, particularly in the Southeast. And again, another spread of the geographic spread of Nigeria. So it's telling bad on our economy. Nigeria is largely in debt, and this is not even helping matters. Then there is the question of employment as well. I mean, if businesses are not free to operate, how are we even going to employ the workforce in Nigeria, which again tilts back into the negative effects of these things, which is heightening the level of insecurity, because again, the man who is not employed has no option sometimes but to resort to crime. So there's a whole lot of damage this is actually doing to the Nigerian system, and this is the reason why we continue to call and hope that the government is going to be more proactive in addressing these problems. It's not just being lip service or political methods towards resolving them. It's not initiating hate or some kind of divide and rule approach to it. What we necessarily need to do now is to come together, appraise the issues, apply those issues and isolate them and see how to address them effectively. And then, like I was saying, the issue here is that we have a historic problem. And as far as history again is concerned, any problem that has its roots from history is never wished away easily. It doesn't even go away. And we can immediately see the examples of people who have gone through these experiences in the past. We see the case of Russia and Kosovo. We saw the case of South Sudan. And then again now, we are looking at Catalonia. This is the same thing reflecting in Nigeria. All of them are historic. These are problems that came from years back, and they're not going to go away. It's something to do with the voices, the spirit of the people, which is hardly conquered. So this is the problem we are facing in Nigeria, and every conversation we should have now should be tailored towards addressing these issues once and for all, before the ugly head is going to cause more havoc in the system.
Very well. Now let's get to the leadership of the Southeast again. Going back to the leadership of the Southeast, and solving the problem of the agitators. Some people have put forward restructuring as one of the solutions to solving the problems in the Southeast and the agitation. Perhaps the agitators can maybe realign and restructure to follow the calls for restructuring, and that could maybe solve the problem if they can key in to canvassing the restructuring physically and even geographically. Do you think that that's going to solve the problem?
Yes, we believe so. We don't necessarily believe in the methods of the I.P.O.B if indeed they are the ones actually causing this havoc. Because again, like we were saying, if you make a proper review of the situation, you see a situation where the leadership of the agitation sometimes deny most of these events, and that's because there's a holo. So people take advantage of the situation in the country and begin to commit all sorts of crime in the name of whether in the name of the I.P.O.B or any other organization. But holistically, we condemn the events and the activities of these organizations, and we continue to hope that they are not the ones perpetrating all of these things. But we believe that one of the effective solutions to deploy here is to have a national talk and then restructure the system. You see, it is very difficult for a man to manage many wives. This is the situation in Nigeria as well. You have a country with multifarious sectors and sections, people drawn from different backgrounds and origins. It is going to be very very difficult. Nobody says it was going to be easy to deal with them. But the amalgamation has happened in 1914. There is no disputing that fact, and there's no way we're going to part now when we have a whole lot of collective interest to protect, unless it comes to that point where, well, a breakup becomes inevitable. But I believe we have not gotten to that stretch. I believe that even at this time, there are effective solutions we can actually use to quell this. And one of them is restructuring the system. When we talk about restructuring, perhaps that's a discussion for another day, but it is, a way to make the different parts of Nigeria feel involved and have a sense of belonging in the scheme of things, particularly in government. You must allow people access to government. You must allow people feel that they are represented by the government of the state. Otherwise, you polarize the state, and that's exactly what's happening now. So we believe in national dialogue, which is going to produce, if it does, a restructure of the Nigerian system.
Okay, now let's bring you in. You can join the conversation. Call 09073530044 and 09087668888. Send us a message on 09097054450. Did I remind you to keep your comments as civil as possible? Please do not step out of the line with what's acceptable for broadcast. Hello, good morning.
Yeah. Hello, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning, Paul. It's good to have you join us.
Yeah, I'm wanting to the doctor. I want to say kudos to the doctor. He has given us a lot of analysis this morning concerning the issues that are on ground. Now, I as a person, as Paul, let me mention it that way. I'm not speaking on behalf of other people, but to me, my own view is that, you see, the injustice that is rested on some other people, especially the Northeast, in terms of leadership of this country, most of these things are the things that are generating into all this agitation. If the government of the state, or if people who are in power will not balance up a lot of things, like in terms of appointment, president across the region and other things, development, infrastructures, and so on and so forth, we will keep on having this. I like the fact that this issue is not just domestic; it's gone international. That's why I'm happy that the doctor is be able to explain the perspective, the two perspectives, and even internationally. But when we look at some of these things, we might be looking at it as if they are just minute, they are just little things that can be dealt with. They can be dealt with once. It will take time, and in taking time, if we don't look at a way to make people have justice, we will continue to have it, and it will grow much bigger than what we are looking at later. And I want to say this, please and please. I'm from the north, and I feel that I support this power being shifted to the east to ease this tension, for God's sake, and then to my brothers in the southeast. Just look at the decision that we take. Now, you get instances of examples of other countries, South Sudan, Kosovo, Catalonia, that are even fighting now. Now, if you look at the settings that the Igbos are, it's different from that one to me, or as for me. Because I look at it, Igbos are more straight to part of this country. They have developed this other part of this country, and they have a lot of businesses right across. And most of the decisions that they take now in the southeast, they are dealing with their own people. It's affecting most of their own people. Now, people cannot come out being that they are business-minded people. They do their own entrepreneurship. But if you are taking decisions that affect and ruin all those businesses, it affects you more. More so that this government does not even give a damn. So we should be able to look at decisions that will make this, that will reduce the tension, that will reduce the suffering of our people, knowing fully well that these are people who engage in businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your contribution to the conversation this morning. We really appreciate that. Now, Dr. Amachazi, you heard Paul. I'm hoping that you got Paul and his submission to the conversation. Now, I'm going to ask, the 2023 is around the corner. All right, we're having the discourse on political shifts. That conversation has been in the polity for quite a while. But before we talk about that, let's bring in this caller quickly. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. We can hear you. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Comrade Victor on the line. Prince Yamacho.
Comrade Victor, good to have you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. You shut me up when I was making my own contribution.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't want to spoil your thoughts. Just so
I don't think there was any reason to shut me up because I'm airing my view. And if our view is not accepted, we will stop making contributions. That is number one. I want to acknowledge your guest. Your guest has made a proactive analysis. I'm not the fan to say this. We actually are taking this thing bit by bit as regards to the real issue. But the main point is this. The activities of the I.P.O.B to a large extent is not in tandem with the reality. I must be first to say this. And the likes of us who are youth leaders are trying to see what we do to actually curtail the excess. Because criminals will not have an avenue, okay, to get themselves and cause more havoc to Nigerians. You see, the other way around, you don't kill people that you are trying to protect. I take you, I'm a Christian, I take you from the Bible. Moses never killed the Israelites when he came to liberate them or save them from their captivity. He never put up policies that will definitely suffer them or put them to death. So it will not be tenable and not well accepted for any group, to move an idea that is very hatchet to our own people. Now, having said that, I think all these agitations and all of that is a bona fide of poor leadership, porous and sentiment leadership. If the leadership seems to be sincere, if the leadership has come with a neutral background, there will not be any need for any form of agitation. You see, I don't want to marry in a line of sentiment. I don't care where the president of this country comes from. In fact, if it happens to come from the Western world, I wouldn't mind. Okay, in as much that the people get good leadership, qualitative style of leadership, the people are heavily represented at every segment. That's no problem. Everybody must not be president. Okay, then in a situation whereby some people are, in fact, the funny, very naive part of it, some people are claiming that they are born to rule. I don't know whom they are born to rule, whether they are born to rule animals or they are born to rule human beings. Okay? And these some people are people who cannot contribute anything meaningfully to the development of this great nation. So now what I'm trying to say is this. Yeah, the activities of the I.P.O.B is as a result of pro and porous leadership of present administration. But the likes of us are putting our strategy on how we can actually engage the government and the people on a roundtable dialogue so that we can have peace. Because it is happening in the southeast, it will replicate in the north and in the southwest. It is some people are saying it's none of our business, it's none of their business. But I will tell them that direct and indirectly, it has great effects on the lives of Nigerians and the economy, as the case may be. So I would want the government to come out with a clear culture of transparent leadership, okay, as opposed to cynicism. This is the only thing that will make the South Easterners to participate vigorously in advancing a policy of an advanced society powered by the good governance and fairness. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade Victor. Now we'll take a pause and continue the conversation. Let's just douse the tension a little, and the conversation will continue here on your radio experience. You can count on. Keep the numbers close: 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Messages are welcome on 090-9705-4450. You can also write us something on Facebook at Eagles FM Abuja.
Attention! Turn your speakers up. The music is lit.
Oh, yeah, take all my money, put them for your head.
Guess who's in town? We are the new sound of music.
Eagles 102.3.
Let's
Spice up your day. Spice up your day. Tune in to a breath of fresh air. It's all fun and games until it gets extra and better. 102.3 Extra, weekdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with Oli J. Cheers to something new.
Eagles Morning Rise. Eagles Morning Rise with
Natural Prince.
Thank you for keeping your dials locked on your radio experience. You can count on 9:43 is the time. You have thoughts, comments, questions, or anything to put forward? Now would be the time to do so. We have our guest back on the line, Dr. Chibike Amuchazi, Lecturer of International Law and Jurisprudence, Faculty of Law, University of Nigeria, joining us on the conversation this morning. Quite an interesting one. It's been, shedding light from different angles and perspectives of the issue with the I.P.O.B in the Southeast, the sit-at-home order, and all the activities that the I.P.O.B has been, mandating, allegedly mandating the Southeast people to observe. You can join in now. Let's bring in this caller quickly so that Dr. Amuchazi can respond to every caller's thoughts in a bit. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Who do we have joining us?
My name is Mr. Success.
Mr. Success, good to have you.
Yes. Let me commend the analyst, the professor. I think he has been very linear and neutral in trying to analyze this whole situation. He has already said it all. What actually the problem is, Nigeria has had a civil war. Nigerian Biafran war. Everybody is aware of what's happened, what transpired. Then after that particular civil war, they introduced the 3 hours, rehabilitation and rebuilding and all whatsoever. Up to date, such ideas did not see the day of the light. And also, after that, there is no room for unity and fairness since that time to date. And these people have been marginalized. They have been shut out of the government selections or whatever for so long. And now the question is, now that was what introduced, brought in the I.P.O.B and the whatsoever group now. So the question is, how have the government been able to handle the issue of the I.P.O.B? Handle them with hatred. They never want to listen to these people. Remember when these people started, they were carrying placards, just trying to, show us, pass a message to the government on how they feel about the whole situation. I never listened to them. The only thing they got was the soldiers going out there to shoot them, kill them.
Please make it quick.
And in international law, there is rights for self-determination, which Nigeria is a signatory to. So Nigeria is a state that doesn't, follow due process, should I say, or they don't obey they don't observe civil rights or whatsoever, should I say.
Okay.
So that was what led to what we are seeing today. So they have the right to defend themselves. It's also under the Charter of International Law. So what do you expect the people to do? Now, imposing people to sit at home and all that, maybe the idea or the pattern they have used, maybe trying to cause havoc and all that, might not be okay, might not be good to listen to or to hear. But then, what they are asking for, the Nigerian government has never, and they've never treated them, they've never, ever called them to a dialogue table to say, okay, this thing you are asking for, okay, if we had done it this way, we have followed this, could have been better, it could have been. They never did that. All they did was to send out army soldiers to go and kill people.
We get you. Thank you so much, Mr. Success. Appreciate you calling in.
They have the right to defend themselves.
Thank you very much for calling. So we don't get lose track of the conversation. Now, Dr. Amuchazi, just some of the thoughts by the callers. Comrade Victor, by the way, I'd love to remind Comrade Victor that these all agitations and all of what you have today did not start with this administration. It started way before now. Before now, we had the MASOB, the Movement for the Actualization of the Sovereign State of Biafra, or something like that, and that was quite loud some years back, or several years back. And the notion that this whole thing started with this administration may not be so correct. But then one thing that has come up over time in with all of the callers is the issue of marginalization. And they said over time that maybe the Southeast people may have been marginalized. Even people from who are not from that region, have agreed to that assertion. But then, as the 2023 presidency elections draw closer, people have said this could be the opportunity to right the wrong and present candidates from the Southeast, all political parties, fielding candidates from the Southeast and all that could solve the problem. But we've seen just yesterday, Tinubu declared his intention to run, and Yohannes Ndibo reacted to that and saying, well, he didn't do that in the interest of justice and fairness. Also, as a lawyer, I'm going to ask you, you understand the Constitution. The Constitution of Nigeria allows for anybody and just about everybody to, contest for elections, be voted, or vote and be voted for, right? What do you make of this campaign, or the people canvassing for power to shift to the Southeast?
Yeah, quickly. You see, my take on all of this, first of all, is that I don't want to be part of celebration of a problem. There is already a problem in Nigeria. Every conversation should be geared towards solving that problem. So I'm not necessarily interested in talking about marginalization, who emerges as president and all of that. Now, if that has been presented as a solution to the ongoing problems or the current problems we have in Nigeria, then I'm not going to agree with that. That's completely wrong. Now, you see, it's easy for you to say, well, the people are marginalized, and your own sense of running an inclusive government is to allow them the opportunity to lead the country. Now, that's fine. If they become president, there is the tendency that they will also begin to run a one-sided government, and the problem will still persist, because when you run a one-sided government, there are other regions of the country that's going to also will begin to agitate, right? So you're not going to solve the problem through that method. And for Christ's sake, we need to appreciate the kind of problem we have in Nigeria. It's a question of rights. It's a question of rights. Now, how does it amount to a question of rights? It's a question of the people feeling entitled to certain rights that has been enshrined in international instruments. Now, but the Nigerian Constitution does not necessarily agree with that right. But this is where we have a problem. And once you do not address legal issues in the country, then definitely there's going to be confusion. And that's what we have here now, just like we have in Kosovo, just like we have in South Sudan, and we're having in Catalonia and elsewhere. Now, the problem is, if people feel that they're entitled to exercise the right of self-determination, which also, in some sense, means a right to form their own government, to secede from the country. Now, and the country itself, where they want to break out from, also enjoys the right of territorial integrity to protect the integrity of their territory. And all of these rights are enshrined in one document, the 1945 United Nations Charter. This is where the confusion lies. So while you feel entitled to a right, a government also feels entitled to a right of territorial integrity, and even in extension, a right of sovereignty, to protect the sovereignty of the nation. So how do we implement the rights? Now, these confusions are more, scholarly and academic than political. But what we can do is to look at the problems that confront us and find an effective way of solving them. Why do you have various sections of the country agitating for secession today? Unrepresentation. That's just the answer. They don't feel involved in the government. How do you get them to feel involved in the government? It's not to immediately run elections and get that particular section of the country that is agitating to become president. That's not all. That doesn't solve any problem. When you do that, other sections will begin to agitate as well. You must define Nigeria with a sense of commonness, some sort of continuity that makes us feel that we are one, even though it is difficult to appreciate that point. And the way you can do this is to immediately organize a national dialogue and restructure the system. By restructuring, you will find that virtually every portfolio, whether it is political, architectural, however you may want to define it, everybody would have sunk into a system. And then there is that feeling that we're all one and that Nigeria will work for all of us as one. Now, why do you have the I.P.O.B instituting this at home, every Monday?
Dr. Amuchazi, we would have to wrap this up quickly, please.
Okay, yeah, then we'll have to clear this air. The reason why they do that is that there is also a requirement in the absence of a referendum that the secessionist agitators must show that the entity, the one to be out of the country, actually respects their opinion and their views. And the way the international community can collect that impression is by seeing how compliant the entity is to the directive of the agitators. And that's what they are doing. That's why sometimes they will use force, to ensure that you comply with those instructions.
All right.
And the only way to solve this problem again, quickly, Yanasho, the only way to solve this problem again is to insert in that constitution the opportunity to conduct a plebiscite, otherwise a referendum, to answer national questions, so that we don't go through these methods that agitators who enjoy a right of self-determination are actually towing. If there was enshrined in the constitution that opportunity to conduct a plebiscite, then perhaps they would have answered the question as to whether these people all collectively desire to leave Nigeria. It's as simple as that. But there is no constitutional backing for sale. So that's the point.
Dr. Chibuike Amuchazi, Lecturer of International Law and Jurisprudence, Faculty of Law, University of Nigeria. Thank you so much for talking with us this morning. Really appreciate your time on the program. And right, this is where we'd have to drop the anchors. Thank you to everyone who contributed to the conversation. To those of you who just sat back to listen, be a part of it again tomorrow at the top of the hour 9. Thank you to Funshaw for putting us in pictures. We really appreciate that. Coming up next is business news. Right after that, Nene will take over airways on 102.3 Extra, sitting in for Olije. My name is Ihia Nacho Prince. Have yourself a very fantastic day.
Eagles 102.3.
Welcome to Eagles 102.3 News Beats.